This episode of After the Whistle contains profanity. Listener discretion advised. Please enjoy.
So we did episode 2 today with Jeremy Roenick. And we talked a lot about everything that we discussed in episode 1. Jack Eichel's neck, how he would have wanted to handle it, because he was a star player. The NHLPA conversation I thought was fascinating. He's obviously very fascinated by the business of the game, isn't he?
Yes.
And I didn't
always very involved in all the CBAs. I remember Jeremy Roenick was a staple in all of those meetings. He was very, very knowledgeable and
vocal. Which he's never been afraid to be, but he was vocal at times where other players were afraid to use their voice, and he had status and the courage to say things that are maybe unpopular to the upper guys that might ruffle some feathers, because whether it goes through or it doesn't go through, bad ideas and good ideas and uncomfortable ideas need to be brought to the forefront when you're talking about livelihoods and short careers like you are with professional hockey players. And he's very in tune with it.
Yeah. Well, you know that he's saying stuff that ruffles feathers when we're sitting here having a conversation with him and the hair on my arms are starting to go up. That's when you know that there's something. What he said was eyebrow raising.
I think it's the conviction in his voice when he speaks is what gets me, because he's not just like, what opinion can I come up with today that might be interesting? He's speaking from how he really feels. He's not going off like, you got those 6 analysts are saying that, so maybe I'll say this.
He's not giving an opinion. He's giving facts.
Yeah.
He's very knowledgeable on all these topics. And I'm going to tell you this. There's people that they're not going to like what he has to say.
There are people that are not going to like what he has to say. And it's real, though. It's real. And you know as well as I do that he's not the only one saying it. You don't have to agree with him. But I think he's been around long enough and knows the business of the game and enough people within the game to voice the type of opinions that he voices. So, we'll leave it at that. The Evander Kane situation was fascinating. And I'm trying to think of, whatever else we're missing in the preview here. You'll have to find out what he says. It's not long. How long was it? 35 minutes? 35 minutes?
Yeah, it's a really good conversation.
Really good conversation. After the Whistle, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. You already know that because you found us there, but we're reminding you of that so you can tell your friends. Enjoy. Welcoming in future Hall of Famer and good friend. And I only say future Hall of Famer, JR, because it's a shame that you're not inducted into the Hall of Fame yet, by the way. We want to just mention that right out of the gate.
In due time. In due time.
Well, but first, we both
let me just say I'm not going to hold my breath. Somebody doesn't like me over there, and for whatever reason it is, it's I have a great life. No matter what happens, my life is great. But I appreciate you guys, boys. I appreciate that sentiment. It's awesome.
Well, we bring that sentiment up, and I'll just say this as we start, our new endeavor here. Craig and I launched last week, and we are really excited about your willingness to get involved, because we know that over the years when you were joining us and we're back on the air together, we always had unbelievable response. Like the three of us, we always had unbelievable response. And when you would come on with us on Wednesdays and you would say, I was in Vegas, I was here, I was in this part of the world, and someone came up to me and said, I love you on the show with Petey and Riv. And it was unbelievable. So to have you back.
That happened like 10 times. I think it even happened to me when I was over in Europe. Remember I did a show from Europe one time. I'm walking through the streets, and I believe I was in.
Were you like in Morocco or something? Or
I think I was in Italy. I was like touring some ancient town. I'm doing the instigators. Dude, you guys are great. I mean, listen, I think one thing that we all do, we have great perceptions of the game. We have good opinions, and we're not afraid to pull out opinions. Riv, maybe not so much you. You're a little conservative, but yeah. But
wait, who's the conservative one, Riv or me?
Riv's the conservative one. Yeah,
no, he's not. He's not. I think you're just
Oh,
stirring the pot. Rivs has got
listen,
Rivs has got a big set of stones over there.
I don't know. Listen, we're starting a new show, so I'm throwing the gauntlet out early. I'm throwing it out in the first show that I'm on. I want to see some real, like, just in your face, cutthroat analysis of what's going on in this fucking game. That's what I want to see.
Well, then let's do this. Let's get your analysis on something. One thing I know about you, JR, is that you don't like having your tires pumped. Like, you don't like when we would sit there and be like, oh, you're this and that, you were this. I know that. But I will say this, you were a star player in this league, and we're watching a star player right here in Buffalo go through some really tough times with his neck. And there are people out there that are questioning the treatment, how he's been treated. Should he be allowed to have the surgery even though the collective bargaining agreement states that the team will have final say on a player's procedure going forward, right? They can have a second opinion and all that. So from where you are, what's your thought on the Jack Eichel situation first and foremost? Because I think this is still and will be for quite some time the biggest news in hockey.
Well, I think one thing you always have to remember is sports is only a temporary thing. Okay. BD, you were in the game for a certain amount of years. Riv, you were there for a certain amount of years, and I was there. And sometimes you don't know how long that's going to be. It could be me 20. Jack's a young kid, and he has to take care of himself. I'm always going to side with the person and what he feels is best for his life, for his health, for what he thinks is best doctor. Even though he is an employee, even though he does get paid a lot of money by Buffalo, I don't think Buffalo should have that choice whether he gets that surgery. That should be his decision. He should go out there and do what's best for him, and he's got to stand behind it. What's happening over there in Buffalo after everything that's happened over the last couple of years is awful. It's a shit show, and you don't want to have a shit show with your best player. But you also have to let your best player make his decisions on how he feels that he needs to move forward in his career. And I feel bad for Jack. He's a good guy. I really like Jack, and he's a great player.
So 2 questions for you, JR. Number one, is the NHLPA in the next collective bargaining agreement going to address this issue? Because right now, the players in that ink on page like 250, it states at the bottom that the team has total control and last say in the physical and medical situations of any player. So that I think it might be addressed. Do you think it's going to be addressed? And number two is
it better be addressed. But go ahead.
And number two is Jack Eichel. You were a superstar for your team. You were a young player at some point in this game. If you were in Jack Eichel's situation and you were told that you had to have a certain surgery, you had to have a fusion, but you wanted a disc replacement, at what point in time, and you had $50 million on your contract, 5 years left, what would you do if you were Jack Eichel?
I'd do exactly what he's doing. I'd stick to my guns, and then I'd find a team that saw that saw things the way that I did. I think Jack is still young. He can have still a long career. He's got to do what he's got to do. And if he has his beliefs, that's his beliefs. And if there's a team that doesn't stand in the same line as his beliefs that are going to support him, then maybe he needs to find a team and demand a trade to get to someplace that does see things the way that he does, or they see eye to eye, or they agree on treatments. But
would you trade if you were GM on another team? Would you trade for Jack Eichel in the condition that he's in, regardless of forget about the trade that you can put together that the team would accept. Would you trade for that $50 million asset, that player with that neck injury?
That the surgery that the player wants
Well, it definitely becomes
has never been done before on an
Yeah.
NHL player.
Great point
Yeah,
by
it's-
Riv. A
yeah.
surgery that's never been done on an NHL player before.
It definitely puts a wrinkle and a big asterisk whether it's a smart thing. To trade for Jack Eichel would be easy in normal circumstances, but you would definitely take a risk. But we've seen teams take risks on players. Now, what would be a deal that you can get for a Jack Eichel in this kind of situation? Obviously, Buffalo would want the world, and nobody would want to give up that. So it makes it very, very difficult. So whether he's tradable or not, that's another decision, or another situation, another question. But going back to Riv's other question with the PA and the bargaining agreement, I'll tell you right now, players are fucked right now. They're fucked. Right now, they owe the National Hockey League $1 billion. They have issues like this that just came up with one of their star players in terms of their health situation and the decisions that they make. There are so many different things, and from what I understand, Don Fehr is not the most forthright and person who's going to put information out there and tell everybody what's going on in the National Hockey League. I think Don Fehr has a big job to do and better wake up and take care of these players, because as of next 2 years, the next bargaining agreement, these players are going to be under the gun to repay a lot of money to the National Hockey League, and all these other situations that could affect their careers, like what's happening with Jack Eichel. And I hope that the PA is taking care of them and making sure that these issues are front and center, and are going to be honest with the players, and they're going to do the right thing with the National Hockey League, because they're in trouble right now. And you know what the problem is none of them really even understand the situation that they are in. They think it's all well and
98% of all NHL players have absolutely
nothing.
Zero idea what goes into that CBA and the negotiations that are being made. And, that's probably one of the bigger issues.
Well, let's take Jack Eichel's situation into account as a perfect example. How does the wording of team has final say in players' procedure go as an oversight? Like, how is it overlooked? Because
again, it's because the players put so much trust and faith in the leader.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say, and I hate to interrupt you. I'm sorry. You're our guest. Or, as you know it and I know it, the players only care about the one thing. And I'm not criticizing the players, because I was a player rep, JR. And when you came in the room, or you came in the room, Craig, or doesn't matter who it was, Adam Mayer or anybody else in between, the first and only question when I said, hey, boys, we got to have a 15, 20-minute meeting. Just write the escrow percentage on the board, what we're doing this quarter, and we'll see you tomorrow. Like, that's all they cared about. Meanwhile, there's health benefits we got to talk about. There's other issues that you got to discuss.
Yep.
And they're just like, what's the escrow? What am I taking home at the end of the day?
It's ignorance. It is true ignorance. Now, all
how
these
do you
guys,
change that though, JR? How do you change that? You've got players in this game right now that are making
kids
2, 3, 5,
okay,
8,
well, guess
10
what?
Kids making millions.
Stop.
Stop.
You had Brady Tkachuk just signed for $8.5 million. Okay, so everybody's like, "Oh wow, Brady Tkachuk," and I love Brady Tkachuk. He's one of my favorite kids in the world. But if you look at where they are today, okay, and what's going to happen with this new bargaining agreement, where they are financially with the National Hockey League, Brady Tkachuk's salary is going to go from $8 million, and he's probably going to bring home $1.5 million. Okay,
What?
because with escrow,
I mean, that's drastic. That's drastic. But tell me how he's only bringing home $1.5 million.
Okay, All right. See, exactly. That's exactly what the players are thinking.
Yeah, it
Okay?
is. 'Cause I don't know. I mean, I'm making 8. I'm thinking I'm at least bringing home 5.
5 before you even walk out the door in Canada. It's what, 47, 48% tax. Okay. That's off the bat. That goes right to the government. Okay. After that, you have a 20%, 18% escrow that you have to pay out. And by the way, you owe $1 billion. You're not getting that escrow back. So you're having 40%. Then you have another 20%. You're looking at paying almost 65, 70% of your contract to taxes and escrow. Not to mention, in the States, you have to give taxes to every state that you play in.
That's right.
So your tax returns have 31 different tax returns that you have to give in, let alone your state tax, your own state tax, your federal tax. You have to FICA, then you have FICA, then you have your Social Security. Man, you're fucked because of this
Agent
escrow.
fees, union dues, cars, houses.
So Petey, let me tell you, an $8 million contract with the way that things are right now with these players, they're bringing home 1.52 million after all said and done, taxes, money in the bank. So,
and that's an $8 million player.
Yeah, exactly. So listen, this is the problem. So you say, how do you get these kids to change? So I'm a part of an initiative, okay, that is hiring some of the greatest companies in North America that do one thing. They build revenue. They build revenue for big companies. They build revenues for big leagues. Their job is simply to take whatever your revenue of your organization is and triple it within 3 or 4 years. So these 5 companies that our initiative is put together with are in front of the National Hockey League right now, in front of the NHLPA right now, presenting a huge plan that would take the National Hockey League revenue to $7-8 billion over the next 5 years. Okay, what that will do, that will erase and eradicate escrow that these kids have to do. It will put more money in these in these players' pockets, in the owners' pockets, and it will allow these kids to put money in the bank so they can survive the rest of their life. Because right now they will not. And this is what pisses me off, because the disrespect and the lack of care by so many players in the National Hockey League right now is it's numbing. I would make a phone call to a player, because I am introducing this initiative and making sure that the player reps tell all their players what's happening, tell all their players how we're trying to help. And some of them go, yeah, no, we're okay. Don Fear's got it. Or some wouldn't even call back. I had Tom Wilson's like, yeah, no, we'll be okay. We got this, JR. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. Don Fear will have our back. And I'm like, this is unbelievable to me. The fact that, and by the way, what you guys said, I didn't have a shitty career. I had a pretty goddamn good career. And these kids either won't call me back, or it falls on deaf ears by saying, yeah, no, we just don't want to rock the boat. Rock the boat? What do you mean rock the boat? We're doing something that is going to make the National Hockey League billions of dollars, and it's going to make the players billions of dollars, and you don't want to listen to it? The fuck is wrong with you guys? And that's what's happening. That's what's happening in the National Hockey League.
Well, that's the players just want to play. And I understand that. I felt like when I became a player rep, and I don't want to go too far down this path, but I feel like every player now, like the guys that even shouldn't be branding themselves are becoming brands, and it's business and it's all this stuff. And I honestly think that the players, whether it's through the PA with what they need to learn about the business of hockey, or from other outside business opportunities, or from their agents or whatever, I think they have so much going on. I think all these players have just got so much going on, and it's almost like when you try to
They
What's
don't
that?
have a whole lot going on. I really do believe that. This comes down to just immaturity.
I'm not defending them.
As-
I'm saying like
Yeah.
I'm not.
And listen,
that's what I'm saying. Like I think they, I don't think they. I think they just want to be hockey players. Like, and
Yeah.
I think they're afraid.
Well, that's true. That's
You know?
true. And listen, and also, nobody wants to ruffle the feathers. Nobody likes to
Well, everyone's afraid
Nobody
to bring
wants-
a potentially bad idea to the table. They don't. If it's a great idea, but they don't know what they don't.
No,
mean
they're afraid. They're afraid. They're afraid that the National Hockey League, that the National Hockey League or their upper management is going to get mad at them for thinking about financial
sticking their
things.
nose where it doesn't belong because
Yeah,
they know they're
yeah.
going to be told, just play hockey.
Correct.
Just play hockey.
Correct.
Stick to hockey. Stick
Correct.
to hockey. Your education is 100 feet by 200 feet.
Correct. They don't want to stir the pot.
Yeah,
And
I
even
agree.
even if they're not stirring the pot, they're like, oh, I don't want him to get mad at me because I'm talking about NHLPA stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's ignorant. It's ignorant to an nth level.
But
And
whose
I'm
issue is
telling you-
that? Is that the player's issue, or is that the NHLPA needs to do a better job with?
PA needs to do a better job. You know, Don Fear. You can't get Don Fear to expose and show players anything right now. Where are the numbers? You know, where's all the money? What's coming in here? How much do you make? How much does the Schneider make? You know, you can't get answers from him. I mean, if they knew what was going on in that PA and how much money that they were making and how much that they put on those credit cards to take themselves out for dinner and stay in the nicest hotels and spend all these players' money like that, there'd be a lot more people standing up and saying, hey, that's our money. That's our money that we made in the PA. And you need to be a little bit more responsible, A, about how you're spending it, B, and reporting it to us. Because Don Fear doesn't tell these players everything.
I remember, I think when we hired Paul Kelly, I remember he was like the salary he was getting and his monthly expense for his car. I remember because I was a player rep at the time. And I remember like we had to vote on his contract and everything. He was getting like $1,500 a month for a car. I'm like 1,500. I didn't say anything. I mean, I'm Andrew Peters from the Buffalo Sabres. I'm a fourth liner and grateful to make my league minimum $550 or whatever.
He's got to drive the Range Rover, Petey. Come on,
I thought maybe like a Bentley coupe
so,
he'd be having or something.
I'm going to say this, and I don't have verification of it, but I know friends in and around the PA, and you know, you talk about price. Like Joe Ricci, okay, he was a solid NHL player. 700, he's like making like $500,000 to $700,000 with the PA, and he's got an unlimited credit card where he goes around taking players out to dinner and tells them how great the job Don Fear's doing. You know what? It's there's always going to be where there's a lot of money. It's always going to be taken advantage of, and if the players agree to it and say that's okay, then that's fine. But I don't think the players know what the top guys in the PA are making. You know, the 5 or 6 or 7 guys, or what's happening with
somebody has to know. Like, I mean, it has to be voted on, doesn't it? I mean, unless it wasn't, then that's like. Just because I remember how things worked when I was there, but maybe things have completely changed. I mean, they changed a lot in the short time that I was there, and you know, in the league.
You'd be shocked.
Oh, it's something to keep an eye on. That's for sure. But I mean, I'm always fascinated by the business side of it, and I'll say that, you know, just to kind of wrap this conversation up, I always feel like that partnership needs to be better. The NHL and the NHLPA. I think it's still. I thought they did a great job.
Do you not think it's better now than what it's ever been in the history of the game, though?
I think
there's still a lot of room for improvement.
Right, but why did they come together so quickly, so fast, so strongly at COVID?
Yeah, it's all about money.
It was money. Like when push came to shove, like it wasn't like a normal lockout year where it's like, oh, we got a war chest full of billions and we're just going to sit back and relax until somebody budges. This was like, holy shit, man, we could be at risk of losing the rest of this season, billions in playoff revenue, and next season, we better figure something out here, guys, or your contracts are you're done. We can be
So they're still at that point right now, unless they find a way to raise the revenue back up to, now they have to raise that revenue up to 5 or 6 billion instead of the 4 where they left off at.
Well, I'll tell you who needs to raise revenue. And I don't like to open it that way because I don't like to wish ill will on any player. Sometimes you make a mistake and you pay for it and you move on, and everybody, gives you a second chance, sometimes even a third chance. But then you just continue to keep making mistakes, and that's Evander Kane. And falsifying his vaccination document, and we've talked about this a little bit in our last episode, but you're familiar with the San Jose situation. You're close to the organization there. What are your thoughts on the Evander Kane saga that has been since even the last time we've spoken to you, with all the gambling allegations, and then even this, this is way worse. What happens here? What happens with Kane? What happens with, can San Jose just cut bait? What do you see happening?
Well, this is such a hard one for me because the cat has 9 lives, and I think Evander's is at his 9th. I can't see him coming back and being able to play and have the respect of his teammates, to have the respect of from the fans, to be able to come back. And I'll say this: Doug Wilson is a very, very forgiving and loving person that will give somebody the benefit of the doubt, and he will do everything he can to take it to that limit for Evander Kane, because he knows he's a great player. Let's not forget how great of a player he is. However, when you become a detriment to the team as many times as Evander Kane has, and we have to understand too his, what he's been through in his life. I mean, I never wish anybody to have to bury a baby daughter at the age that Evander Kane has had to do. Doesn't make excuses for him to be doing the things that he's doing, but there has to be at some point some accountability. And when will it stop? Because we thought it stopped after the gambling allegation, after the women allegation. Now here we go again with the COVID thing. It's like, when will it stop? And at some point, you just can't trust it. And I think Doug Wilson is at that point. I can't see Evander coming back even after this suspension.
So here's the thing. We talked about, possibly San Jose having the thought process or opportunity to terminate the contract, but that is not going to happen. It came out, that exact question about what will San Jose do with Evander Kane's contract. It was confirmed in the CBA. They cannot terminate his contract. The suspension of 21 games is his punishment. And San Jose is now in a situation where they cannot terminate a contract. So they have to make a decision. He is untradeable. You can't buy him out. So it's, do you put him in the minors or send him home and tell him that you're just going to pay him just to get him away from the team and just have a completely different environment? Because there's a big cloud that hangs over San Jose, unfortunately, when Evander Kane is there. And he is a great hockey player. He's had some great years. His last 3 years have been really fantastic. But I think it's a subtraction. I think they're just going to either send him down to the minors and just be gone with them, or they're going to send him home.
Well, I will say this is going to be the total team decision. It's not going to be the Doug Wilson decision, because one thing that Doug Wilson will do is he's going to bring the opinions of his players into this decision. His leadership group, obviously Logan Couture, Hurdle, these guys that have been there for a long time. Yeah. There's going to be a sit down with these players, with Carlson and all them that are going to make that final decision for Doug Wilson, because Doug Wilson is going to leave it up to the players. I know him. he loves his players, and he's going to leave his team up to the people that have to go out and play with them and win hockey games with them. And I'm telling you, it's going to be a decision that is going to be made by the GM, the assistant GM, and the leadership group and the players on that team.
Well, it's going to be interesting if that is the case to see what these players do, because, you know, before Evander Kane was traded to the Buffalo Sabres, he had a real tough go with his teammates in Vancouver. You know, he was very.
I know of one player on San Jose Shark team. Obviously, will not say the name, but says he does not want him back. So
yeah,
it does not want him in the locker room. So, you know, take
That
that
sucks.
as one.
That sucks to hear, because he's such a good player. He's such a good player. You know what? And I just, you know what I wish, JR? I mean, I know we talk about players' money all the time and making sure they save their money, but there's no way that 700 NHL players are not living in darkness with something. You know, like.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
You know, like
100%.
there are so many guys that are battling demons. I was one of them, and Craig, I bet you that you never in a million years would have ever known that I had some demons that I was dealing with at my time. You probably never. You would have been like, Peter, you were the happiest guy in the world, and
yep.
You know, like you, I guarantee it. But then the lights go out in the career, and you got all this time to think, and you start to. You know, the demons start to come out because you can't suppress them anymore with time away from the rink and stuff like that. So, I just wonder why we can't.
It's a great point.
I just wonder why we can't help these players. I just wonder why players as
they have to be able to help themselves too, Petey. And it's a great point by you. It's a great point by you. Mental illness comes in all shapes, forms, and sizes, and issues. But when it comes down to it, you gotta want to help yourself, and he just has not. He talks the right way, but he just hasn't gotten to the point where he follows through with it.
Yeah. Well,
I agree with you, though. I hope it all works out for him. He's had a tough life. He's had some real bad things happen to him in his life. It's not a reason to give him an excuse for what he's done, but. I mean, you have to have a little, a little bit of,
empathy, sympathy, and I mean, but again, he's not helping himself. This is like I said, I said it. This is not like a mistake that you make because you're dealing with something. This is a mistake that you make because you're being stupid. This was a stupid mistake, and I bet if he didn't have all those other mistakes, let me ask you this question before we wind down, because I know we're way over our time with you. Do you think he's the only player in the NHL that has falsified his vaccination document?
No.
You
can't tell me that. You can't tell me that 700 guys are okay with being vaccinated.
Who, by the way, deep down inside, all these guys all think their body's a temple. By the way.
Yeah.
So they're not all going to.
It's the scariest decision that are on people's plates right now. The scariest decision on whether you're an athlete, whether you're a healthcare worker, whether you're in law enforcement, whether you're military. It's one of the most scariest decisions that one has to make in their lifetime right now. You can't tell me that all 700 guys in the league like, oh yeah, sure, put the needle in my arm. That's fine. I'm good. No. So there is an issue, and we just have to hope everybody's healthy and safe. But we're going to see a lot more crazy shit, I'm sure.
It'll be interesting to see if we see any more of this. What do you got going on, buddy? What are you up to right now? What do you got going on in the life? We know you were busy in meetings yesterday.
Yeah, I actually have a real job. I have a real, honest to God, out there working hard, in the trenches and meetings job. And I love it. It's not sports. I'm actually working for a very high-end construction company and helping them expand their business to different parts of the country with my resources, my connections, my friends, my ability to get to people very quickly and know what's happening. And then my job is to help close deals. I take people golfing. I take them out to dinners. I'm an entertainer.
Let's go.
I do what I do, and I'm with people, and I make people feel great, and give them, tell them how appreciative we are of their business, and we sign $1 million deals, and we go play, have fun, and we play golf and travel. So that's my job. I'm now a construction GC area rep. So I love it.
I'm going to tell you something you excel at, and I knew this before I even knew you. Okay, is making people feel good around Jeremy Roenick. And I remember the first time I met you. I was on a golf course in Arizona. We were there for the Brad May golf event. And I'm Andrew Peters, 1 year in the NHL. I played, I think, 42 games my rookie year, and we're in the lockout year. So no one there's like, I'm amongst like stars. Okay. And I walk up, I'm the guy, I hate golf. So I was walking around with the camera, doing all the interviews and stuff.
Yeah.
And I walked up and you came up to me and you're like, Andrew Peters, what's going on? Nice to meet you, Jeremy Roenick. I'm like, holy shit, this guy actually, like, he knows who I am. And yeah, I was a little starstruck. And then, so then after that, we do Off the Record. It was me, Mike Pekka, and we were on with Landsberg out of Toronto, and you were on via satellite. And Landsberg didn't know if you knew me, and you're like, oh yeah, we got Pex on here, and you go, yeah, Petey's there too. Now, we had only met like once. He's like, yeah, you got Petey there too, right? I was like, yeah, JR, I'm here. And I'm like, screw you, Landsberg. Like, I love Landsberg. Don't get me wrong. I love him. I'm just saying, like,
he's great.
He was, I don't think he just expected you to know me. And I'm like, you know what, Landsberg? And JR,
listen, it's important. Personal relationships are very important. Friendships are important. And I think the way that you treat people is even more important. And especially in the world that we have going today, with with how divided we are as people in this country and all over the world. We need to be better. We need to show a little bit more love, a little bit more compassion, a little bit more attention. And I joined this job not because I was bored or needed the money. You know what I missed? I missed being part of a team.
Yeah.
Like we're a team. The three of us were a team. I love that. That's why, even with all the crazy stuff that I'm doing, I'm jumping on board with you guys because I love this team. This new company that I'm working for, Skyline Construction, they have an amazing team that takes care of their clients and their employees. It's a 100% employee-owned company. They care about them. Every single person in this company that I've met is awesome and has reached out to say, what can we do to help you? So I feel a part of a team, and it's truly been so much fun because I have that locker room experience, that locker room feeling again without being in the locker room. And it's important.
We truly appreciate you and the willingness to join our team weekly to do this After the Whistle. And who knows where this can go, JR? Who knows? Who knows where we can take this?
You guys brought Instigators to the top 10 in the country, man. You guys are going to take this to the top 5 in the country and podcasts and all that stuff. So you guys are going to blow it up, and I'll do whatever I can do to help you.
Well, we appreciate your time.
Yep.
We will
Thanks,
we'll chat again next week about everything NHL. We know you're loving the refs these days, so can't wait to get the heated discussion on that.
Yeah, wasn't that awesome? Wasn't that a great welcome to the National Hockey League, Kraken? Here's a kick-in goal for your first loss. Way to go. Good call, dumbasses. Jesus. Welcome to the league, Kraken. But they have played pretty well, though. I've impressed a little bit by the way they've started. Even though their record doesn't show it, they've been in every game, pretty much every game. But we can talk about them next week.
Welcome to the league, Kraken, and welcome to After the Whistle, JR. You're the best, man. We'll chat with you next week.
Awesome. Love you, Riv. Love you, bud. See you, Petey.
See ya. That's a wrap on another episode of After the Whistle. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, After the Whistle, and at Craig Rivet 52, at the Instigator 76. And you can find us, as you already know, on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, and anywhere else where you can get your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to spread the word.